Located in a remote semi-desertic region of South Africa lies one of the most unusual towns in the world, Orania. Over the past years, this small town has made headlines around the world. Some critics describe it as a discriminatory project. Others see it as Afrikaner self-determination. Whatever the truth may be, Orania has become one of the most controversial and talked about towns in South Africa. So I decided to travel there myself to see what this place really is. During my visit, I met several people shaping the future of Orania. Joost Strydom, executive head of the Orania movement, Carel Boshoff, son of the founder of Orania and grandson of former Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd, and Frans de Klerk, who gave me a tour of the town. So what exactly is Orania? Contrary to popular belief, Orania is not a white-only town. It is an Afrikaner town. Afrikaners are South African ethnic group primarily descended from Dutch, French Huguenot and German settlers who arrived in Southern Africa in the 17th century and developed their own culture and language, Afrikaans. Orania was founded in 1991 as a project of Afrikaner self-determination. At the time, this place was little more than a barren piece of land with a tiny population. Today, the town is growing rapidly. Supporters see Orania as a successful example of cultural self-determination and local development, so I traveled to Orania to explore the town and speak with the people who live there. But first, how do you actually reach Orania? The journey starts in Cape Town, where I took a flight to the small city of Kimberley in Northern Cape. Philip, a local from Orania, was waiting for me.
The next 3 or 4 days is going to be 40 plus.
He runs a shuttle service that regularly drives visitors between Kimberley and Orania. Orania lies about 160 kilometers away, and the drive takes roughly 2 hours through the vast landscapes of the Northern Cape.
It's just going to run away. There's a lot of these vagrants running out just like fires. There's a couple of rhinos here somewhere, which I've seen a few times. There's some zebra. There's a bud. There was a big fire here.
Destroyed so many crops.
This is a township.
So here is the township of Hopetown.
Yeah, Hopetown. Township, yeah. It's all like tin shacks. From Hopetown to Orania, the road is bad because you got all these heavy trucks. They damaged the road.
So you drive on the right?
Yeah, I drive on the right.
So on purpose, it's not dangerous if someone comes.
Well, then I just move over.
It's safer to drive on the right here.
Yeah, the left has got a lot of potholes. I've already replaced 2 tires
Yeah, so it's dangerous.
due to potholes. It's not safe.
Beware. Potholes here on the side. It's Orania here.
Yep.
We reach Orania just after nightfall. So I just arrived in Orania. I arrived yesterday evening. So today I'm gonna begin to explore early in the morning because it's very, very hot today. People have Orania flags on the house, Orania banners. So here is the Protestant church. It's a very old church. It's very old. 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 So here is the Protestant church. with a palm tree in front of it. So they have very nice sports facilities around here. Orania Sportgronde. Nice place to play rugby and to do some sprints around. Orania, nice Orania sign here. At some point, I even got a bit lost in the surrounding desert. So Orania is over there. So I took a small path toward the semi-desertic area. Some kind of cactus here. Small cactus here. So I made my way back towards the town, near a small hill. I should pay attention here. There are many plants around. I mean, I'm not scared about the plants itself, but maybe there are some snakes. There are some snakes hidden in the bush. So I decided to head back into town. Hello. Morning.
We had a guy here about 2 weeks ago also that came from France.
And I met Frans de Klerk, who gave me a tour of Orania.
We also tried to plant a lot of trees. When you look at the satellite picture of Orania, you'll see that it looks like a small oasis. That's because the area that we are in is very dry. There's not a lot of greenery. It's very important for us because trees create shade, and it can get very, very warm in Orania. Many people come to Orania with basically nothing left. They have lost everything in South Africa. They have been the victims of policies that discriminate against them, and now they want to live in a place where they can get back on their feet again. Private institutions like churches, like schools, like charity organizations, we still see where we can help our community where we can. And that would be like projects like these one. This is a housing project right here. Once again, it's not free housing. It's housing where you still have to pay your rent each month. However, the entry barriers are made way, way lower. It's made much easier for you to pay your wages at the end of each month, but the responsibility still lies on you yourself to be able to pay your rent, to be able to find a job. We don't want to create a mentality where people feel like someone else should be taking the responsibility for them. Orania is also a very integrated community. People from different economic levels live in solidarity with each other. We don't have like a poorer area or a school that is only for poorer children or isolated areas where only rich people can play. We have a very integrated community where people live in the same places, people walk the same streets, people go to the same shops, go to the same churches. Here you can see still some young trees. It also speaks about how young Orania still is. Orania is about 35 years old now. Okay, and here you can see a lot of construction going on, a lot of new buildings, houses being built. Mostly it's also done like it's done privately. Many people buy their property and then they build their own house on it. Many other people simply buy a house that has been pre-built. You'll see a lot of Orania flags. People are proud of it. It's a new symbol for them. It symbolizes, it shows a small boy rolling up his sleeve. It's called a little giant because he's a little kid. He's still young, he's new, much like Orania, but his vision is giant. He has a giant vision. He's going to make a giant impact. He uses traditional colors that has been very prevalent throughout our history. Ever since our ancestors came from Europe, they had the color of orange, very often symbolizing freedom. In our case as well, it's a freedom. The white of the small boy represents, at the one hand, our belief, but also being clean. White is a clean color. It's a virtuous color, and then the blue symbolizing possibilities, openness, you know, blue sky, blue ocean, openness and the possibilities that can be. Just quickly to our left hand side, this is our safety and security building, along with our safety and security, one of our safety and security vehicles. This is a private security. So in Orania we do not have a police station. The police that we work together with are the police from the Kimberley municipality, which is from the neighboring town. But for most incidents we use our own private security. We are not dependent on a policing entity or a municipality from outside of Orania to handle our day-to-day business. We go help with farmers whose cattle has been stolen or whose sheep has been stolen, accidents on the road, and in that way Orania, or our security institution, also has a positive impact not only on Orania but in the environment around Orania as well. We believe that a safe province, a safe district around Orania ensures a safe Orania as well.
Is a Hope Town, which is not too far. Some security over there sometimes?
I think Hope Town faces a little bit more criminal activity than Orania. Orania don't have a lot of criminal activity, and when we do have, it's more like petty crimes or drunk and disorderly conduct. There's the Paul Kruger, you can see the statue standing there, and then immediately to your left you will see a new construction building being built. You can see there's the construction workers as well. That's something you won't see in South Africa, is white South Africans building their own buildings. That's something you will only see in Orania. This whole building is being constructed by only Afrikaner hands. This entire area here is scheduled or is planned, it's set out to be our city centre. Much like you would see in some European cities and maybe older South African cities, where you have a church and an icon in the centre of the city with a plaza and then commercial buildings all around. We as Oranians, we do pay our taxes. We are South African citizens and we do use South African roads and different South African benefits. However, our municipality does not receive any tax money back. We don't receive subsidies for our schools or for infrastructure. So that creates a very, very slow development. Things like this, things like new roads being built. These funds have to come somewhere, and that is locally funded. Developing here is very hard. It's a very rough terrain to develop. It's very expensive. And then moreover, we don't get the money we pay for things like infrastructure back from the South African government to invest in our own projects. However, the more people that can contribute to Orania, the more people that can get invested. We have many people, international friends, having investments or making donations. The thing about the statue in Pretoria is it's also on a plaza, right? It's called Church Square. It's also on a plain. That statue today is behind a fence. It's fenced in because it gets vandalized so often. Pieces gets broken off to be sold for scrap metal. Entire plaques gets ripped off. It has been thrown with paint, green paint, red paint. It has been thrown with fire bombs. So the thing is that symbolism does not feel welcome anymore. Instead of removing something somewhere else and then bringing it here, we would rather create new. That's the whole point of Orania. We create new. Once again, you will see an Afrikaner city rising up around him. So that's the symbolism of him being here. This one was funded by Afrikaners and Afrikaner supporters. Buildings for cafes and pubs around. There will also be commercial buildings for small shops, offices, and then closer to the back there will be student accommodation and more industry focused buildings. We don't build larger or higher than 3 stories in Orania. So this is the biggest building that we have ever built or that is being built. And we don't want to go taller than that. We don't want to build a metropolis, a concrete jungle. We want to create an open space where people have lots of public spaces, where people can easily walk around and you have green spaces and all that. When this building is finished, we can already start creating our own plaza right here. So we want to create a plaza here where there's also once again coffee shops and offices and things like that. The buildings that are being built here and the one to my right hand side, they have office spaces at the bottom level and then they have student accommodation at the top level. The idea being, during the day the students are at campus, so they are not here, but the office workers is here, so there's something going on. At night, the office workers go home and then the students come back from campus and then they are studying or maybe having a party or whatever. Here's just a little bit, a few small shops. Over there is a butchery and towards the back there's a gym as well. Bigger machinery, sun panels over there, more construction and things like that. This is also like a small, this to the right hand side is also like a small hub of small businesses. Why create a college in Orania? Logically or practically it doesn't really make sense. We're a small community. However, we learned two things in the building of Orania. One of them is that many Afrikaners have lost practical skills. Afrikaners were during the apartheid years, they were mainly office workers. So what we do here is we teach plumber, electrician, building, woodworking, all those type of necessary practical skills we need to actually build a town. The other thing that we realized is there's a need in South Africa for Afrikaans students to find a place where they can study in Afrikaans, where most institutions you can only study in English. Students from all over South Africa come here to learn different trades in Afrikaans. We even have international students coming from Namibia or Botswana.
I then met Carel Boshoff, a professor, the son of Orania's founder, and the grandson of former South African Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd.
The concept of South Africa as a unitary state called for a kind of redefinition. When South Africa was established as a state in 1910, after the British Boer War, it was a multicultural state. It obviously confronted us with an impossible situation in the long run. What we answered to that, we in the broader sense of our people, was to say that South Africa is in a certain sense not a country, it's an empire. And it needs to split up in its ethnic parts. Now the problem was, as often with empires, is that it was so economically integrated that it was difficult to get an economic foundation for the political split up. The Afrikaner people who controlled the state wanted to try to balkanize South Africa. That was resisted by the black majority, and it ended up in 1994 with the redefinition of South Africa as an inclusive, unitary, centralized nation state with 11 languages, with a very vast territory, with different regions of different kinds. At that stage already, the Afrikaner groupings was debating the question, if this system falls, where do we go? It was a matter of finding a place. Because demography has three elements. It's a question of numbers, but it's also a question of locality. And in the third place, it's a matter of time running, time elapsing, because both the numbers and the localities could change over time. But we ended up on the back foot, demographically speaking, with dwindling numbers, but still spread out. That was the catch. We were, politically speaking, in control from a minority position. So it didn't worry our people as much that the numbers are going down. But that was unsustainable. Cultural effect of slave labor ended up with many Afrikaner people having in their mind that they should not do menial work. It's a bad habit that became culture, and we needed to address that because the demographical and political effects of not performing your own labor is far-reaching. If you few and you are spread out, you are in danger of the circumstances. You know, many of our people have been attacked on farms. It doesn't happen to everybody every day, but it happens to somebody close to every day. But there is something of a solution, and that is in concentration. You can be small of numbers as long as you do concentrate and perform your own labor. Then you can have a very high level of self-sufficiency, and you can resist a lot of pressures, political, economical, cultural, from that kind of basis. And that's what Orania is. Orania is a little cultural fortress. This is the home to our people who are being pushed out elsewhere. We would like to accept anybody and everybody from the ranks of Afrikaners who need to come here. Hundreds of thousands of Afrikaners being negatively affected by quotas, by affirmative action, by all kinds of transformation. And we are a community of some 3,000 people. So we cannot accommodate in a matter of a few years, hundreds and thousands of people. We need to grow organically to the position where we can address that. But at this moment, it's like a tsunami coming for us.
You have too much demands.
Yeah, well, for that reason, we are extending our space.
There are many international friends of Orania who invest in Orania.
It's true, but it's very limited, in terms of the bigger picture. If we could add that 100-fold or 1,000-fold, we could really get faster. We are very thankful for those people who do it. And I think we are sort of settling a track record. Our finances are above board, so people build trust and they see where their money is going to, and they do get a return on investment. But trust is a thing that's built over time.
Let's suppose someone who has the South African nationality. He's of English descent, but he has learned to speak Afrikaans. Is it someone who can potentially live here?
We don't try to over-define the question of identity. We want to address it in a practical way. Do you feel at home? Do you participate? Are you part of the community? Are you pulled into the community? Are you responding to the questions of the community in a positive way? Or do you maybe feel uncomfortable? Do you feel that you would like a lingual context, a place where you could rather speak English? It's not regulated from above. It's a matter for people themselves. There are people who grew up English speaking, who lives in Orania today and are happy and are participating citizens of Orania. There are Afrikaners from old Afrikaner families who lived in Orania, didn't like it and moved away. But none of that could be or should be administered or controlled from a definition side.
Nelson Mandela visited Orania shortly after 1994, I think it was in 95.
95 or 96, 95, I think, yeah.
Jacob Zuma also, I think they both said positive things about Orania. What about now?
Yeah, I think active support would be limited, but having space in their minds for it is a different matter. I can't say whether President Ramaphosa, for example, would silently support Orania or anything like that. His policies are not of that kind. But I had a short meeting with him on the 16th of December last year, and he indicated that he wants to visit Orania as well.
The current president?
Current president, yeah. So it was a short interaction, a public interaction, and then afterwards when we just spoke to each other, he said, well, he would like to come to visit Orania. So maybe we will still see that happening.
That would be a good gesture.
It could, if it happens, yes.
After this interview, I also had the chance to visit a museum dedicated to Afrikaner history here in Orania. Inside there are artifacts, photographs, and symbols reflecting the community's past. I even came across old French newspapers from the time of the Anglo-Boer War, when public opinion in France was largely sympathetic to the Boer cause. Finally, on my last day, I returned to Monument Hill, where Joost Strydom, the executive head of Orania, introduced the bust of important Afrikaner figures, explained the Orania symbol, and shared his vision for the future of Orania.
I think around the world, the debate surrounding statues, busts and monuments is lively, and a lot of people are participating in that debate. We see things like forced removals of monuments. We see monuments getting attacked. We see many cases where monuments are vandalized and damaged, and we also experience that in South Africa. So Orania is private property, and on private property we can care for our own monuments and our own institutions and so on. And what we have here is we've established a bit of a symbolic stage. Over here is to come the two monuments of the leaders of the Boer Republic, President Paul Kruger and President Steyn of the Free State. The other ones over here is prime ministers from the previous regime in South Africa. None of these busts were made by us. We didn't manufacture any of them. We didn't create any of them. They are all, in a sense, refugees because they are not welcome elsewhere anymore. They've been thrown out, or they've been finalized, or they've been donated to us. As you can see, they stand in a half circle. The half circle is the fact that they are men of their time. No nation, no people, no folk has got only a good history, and it's also true that no nation has got only a bad history. But this is part of our history, and the symbolism here is that they are men of their time. You can see that they cannot symbolically see over the edge of this hill. They cannot see into the future. They are products of their time, with the challenges of their time. But for us, the future lies in this man. As you can see, it is Orania's symbol. It is a young man rolling up his sleeves. With this symbolism, create your own future yourself. If you are concerned about the future, for whatever reason, you must create it. That speaks to two aspects of the Orania idea. Firstly, the idea of own labor, the physical ability to maintain your own work, to do your own labor. It is uncommon in South Africa to see this, that we are practicing here, the idea of doing your own work. But also symbolically, the idea that to create your future through actually doing something, taking responsibility. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to make you free or give you a future or give you economic opportunities. You have to do it yourselves. And that is what Orania stands in the line for. And that is what we are known for. We don't expect political parties to come and rescue us. We don't expect foreign leaders to come and rescue us. We don't want to be refugees. We are thankful for those who have raised our cause and supported us around the world, but we want to create our own future. It is a responsibility before our fellow Afrikaners and our fellow men, and a responsibility before God to take up the responsibility and create our future. And this is what the symbol stands for. You can see him on our flag as well. The poor flag gets battered a bit with the heavy winds we get up here, but it's okay. Rather a bit of a ragged flag with a true and faithful purpose and a good symbolism than a clean and nice flag that doesn't stand for anything anymore. The moment that people take away the symbolism away from a flag, the true duty, the true intentions, but it's a nice and pretty flag, it doesn't mean anything anymore. A flag only means something if it is used, and such is a people as well. If they are not used, if they are not working, if they are not building, if they are not tested by the elements, they lose their purpose. And that is what we're doing here in Orania, and that is the symbolism here. These are prime ministers from South Africa since 1924. With JBM Herzog over here, Herzog as we say in Afrikaans. As Prime Minister over here is Hendrik Verwoerd. He was Dutch born, but at a very early age after the Anglo-Boer War. He moved to South Africa with his parents as a small baby. At that stage, just after the Anglo-Boer War, when the two small republics, the Free State and the Transvaal, took on the mighty British Empire and all its colonial influence and said, our freedom is more important than serving the British crown. We will fight for our freedom, and that's what the Boers did. The Dutch and the Germans and so on was very inspired by the bravery and the principled stance of these two small republics, and in that aftermath the Verwoerd family moved to South Africa. The British then went ahead and made South Africa a union. Before that it was different republics. We had our own free republics, the Afrikaner or Boer people. There was the nomadic peoples that moved around. There was the Zulu kingdom, the Xhosa kingdom, the British colonies, and the British made it one country. And with that came a lot of issues, troubles, and in his time Verwoerd tried to manage that, and that ultimately led to what is known as the apartheid policy, something that I would argue came from the British occupation of South Africa, but continued by the National Party, which was an Afrikaner nationalist movement, and that is the context in which he existed. He was followed up by different other prime ministers. Before him was actually Malan. Just after Malan was Strydom, and then Foster followed Verwoerd. So these are all prime ministers of their time. The biggest deed of political action, the biggest deed of resistance to things that are against you is not the flashy things. It's not the social media influencers. It's not some big protest that just starts and ends. The biggest form of political activism is to create a future for your people day in and day out by doing mundane, boring things like just going to your job, creating a community, going through the challenges of service delivery, and building. It is not so flashy, it's not so impressive as a protest or a attractive influencer saying all kinds of things. And I think the true heroes of Orania are the people building the roads, building the houses, cleaning, serving the elderly, educating the young. The future will belong to people who day in and day out take that responsibility. If we want to have a future in Africa, it is the future that through grace from above we build ourselves. Our intention is to create a place for Afrikaners, a future where we can live our culture, live our history, live our religion, and that is what we're trying to establish here.
Overall, I was genuinely impressed by what the people of Orania have achieved. In a remote and harsh environment, they have managed to build a functional and growing town with infrastructure that many small towns, even in developed countries, still struggle to create. Personally, I support freedom of association and cultural self-determination, and places like Orania are an interesting example of what can emerge from them. So why does a place like this remain so controversial? I would be curious to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to see what comes next.